ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कथामय्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सपदूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। Hare Krishna. I am sincerely grateful to be here for this very holy, auspicious gathering. Thank you to His Holiness Varsana Swami Maharaj for so eloquently, concisely, enlighteningly, and wonderfully describing some of the essential history of Vrindavan, and specifically where we are sitting. Besides Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra, who in this universe could have imagined? When Srila Prabhupada was living in his tiny rooms of Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, at a time when he had no means, he had nothing. A little manual typewriter. Throughout the night, he was working on translating Srimad Bhagavatam with purports. During the day, he would mostly do the same thing. He would pray at the Samadhi Mandir of Srila Rupa Goswami, and also pray at the Pushpa Samadhi of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, his guru, to empower him to fulfill the mission he was given. On that rooftop in Calcutta, 101 years ago, in 1922, when he first met his guru, he was told to take the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the world, specifically the Western world, in the English language. Just this morning I heard a recording of Srila Prabhupada. He said, my Guru Maharaj's vision, the English language, because he knew everywhere in the world there will always be people who know the English language. So that specific instruction meant to take this message to the whole world. In 1965, that's 43 years after he received the instruction, he was sitting in his tiny little rooms at Radha Damodar Temple, living alone with Radha Damodar. Who could have imagined that there would be a new Vrindavan in the very remote, unknown hills of the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia in America? In 1971, when Srila Prabhupada returned with a group of people, about 30 devotees, including Her Grace Malati Prabhu, who is with us today, Srila Prabhupada came for the first time back to Vrindavan with a group of devotees. And I would sit at his darshans and hear him speaking to Brajavasis and Goswamis and some reporters. Srila Prabhupada again and again would tell that we have established a new Vrindavan in America. At that time in 1971, there was very few Indian people in America. And for people in Vrindavan, as much as they worship Radharani and Krishna, they worship the land of Vrindavan. It's inseparable. The worship of the Dham is inseparable from the worship of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. It's a place where the Brajavasis, they will worship every grain of dust as more sacred than everything in America, and more valuable. A place where every drop of Yamuna water was more sought after than all the riches in the creation, because it's the land of Radha and Krishna. So when Srila Prabhupada came to Vrindavan, he was telling everyone, I have established a new Vrindavan in America. He said, just as there is a New York and a New England and a New Jersey now there is a new Vrindavan. And as far as I could see, that enlivened people more than anybody, anything. How is that possible? The pride of the Brajavasis that now there's a new Vrindavan 10,000 miles away in America. They couldn't imagine what it really was. Yes, as Varsana Maharaj explained so nicely, in Montreal, Canada, Kirtanananda Maharaj and Hayagriva Prabhu came to meet Srila Prabhupada in his little apartment and said, we have a property in West Virginia that we want to make for you. And Srila Prabhupada, and it was this property, like the same farmhouse. And Srila Prabhupada gave the vision. We will call it New Vrindavan. And he spoke about cow protection and growing our own food and agriculture. 7 temples, a replica of Vrindavan, India. And creating a community with Krishna in the center. In the next year, after being in Columbus, that historical event at Ohio State University, he came to New Vrindavan. At that time, where we're sitting was the entirety of New Vrindavan. And actually, in that little room upstairs, he lived for about 1 month. Now, in the history of all of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, there's very few places where Srila Prabhupada lived in a room for a month. Even if you add up all the times. There was Vrindavan, Mumbai, Calcutta, but in the West, only a couple places. He spent a whole month here with just a handful of devotees. There was no toilets. I don't know if there was running water at that time. But he was so happy. And his happiness was in teaching us to be happy, living here with Krishna in the center. Today, we are celebrating 50 years when Radha Vrindavan Nath, Radha Madhav, Ananta Shesha, for Prabhupada's palace, and Govindaji Mandir were all installed. And after this wonderful celebration, the most brutal attack against the community, violent attack. The deities and the devotees. Vrindavan Nath were installed here. This was the Brahmachari ashram. Brahmachari for newer devotees, it means unmarried ladies who are living as monks. And practically nowhere in history did monks live such an austere life as these ladies up here. The Brahmacharis at that time were living on the floor of the second floor in a room in Vrindavan. During this festival, quite a few devotees came from different places, and our whole community attended all the functions. Each day was a different installation, sometimes 2 in a day. There was an initiation ceremony. I remember Vishnu Jana Maharaj was here. And it was an amazing festival. About a half a year later, the Brahmacharinis moved to Madhuban, and the Brahmacharis moved from Vrindavan to here. At that time, Kirtananda Maharaj and Kulaji Prabhu, who was the president, they designated Param Brahma Prabhu to be the president. And then there was a pujari and another person in charge of cooking, and I was told to take care of the cows. We had about 5 cows here. I even remember their names, actually. It was real austere here. Within a couple of weeks, the head pujari got married. No, in those days, nobody knew. All of a sudden, you just found Brahma, who was said to be, the pujari got married, so you have to be the head pujari. And I said, well, what about the cows? He said, well, you have to do that too. So we were surrendered. I didn't know anything. I never did an arti in my life. What to speak of 6 officers, because being head pujari means you're the only pujari. Because about a half a year later, they did groundbreaking for Prabhupada's palace. So every Brahmachari was going down to Vrindavan and across to Prabhupada's palace to do seva. How do I do artis, and how do I dress deities, and how do I do offerings? Because the pujari already left. So somehow or other, I was like given some instructions. And a few weeks later, Param Brahma Prabhu, our worshipable God brother, he said, the cook got married. You have to cook all the offerings. And these were 6 elaborate offerings every day. You know, Rajboro, noon offering was about 12 preparations. And I never cooked for deities before. I said, well, who's going to do, if I have to cook 6 offerings and 6 artis a day? Who's going to do the deity worship and take care of the cows? And he said, "You." So I tried. Every now and then a cook would come. Actually, Sudhanu Prabhu.
Just walk in. Just walk in.
He was perhaps my best friend and well-wisher in the community. And he was a super excellent cook. So I wrote a little message on a brown paper bag with a pencil that I sent down. Sudhanu Prabhu, save me and come up and teach me how to cook. So he got permission to come for one day. And he cooked all the offerings and all the artis, and I was just writing down everything he was doing, and he never measured anything. I'd say, "How much are you putting in?" He'd go like that. I'd write down like that. And for some time, Mangalananda Prabhu came to cook. Chandramali Swami Maharaj, Brahmachari at the time, came to cook. Omkara and Vishnumurti. We had, from time to time, it was like seasons changing, different cooks. But I'd like to say one thing that I'm especially remembering at this moment. Srila Prabhupada gave many instructions for New Vrindavan. But at times, and this is what I remember most, Damodar Prabhu, wonderful to see him. Shilavati Devi, Hare Krishna. He would say, the instruction how to build New Vrindavan is to keep Krishna in the center. To chant Hare Krishna. When Radha Vrindavan were living here in this historic farmhouse temple, during the summer, it's a paradise all around, as we're seeing now. But along with austerities, because everybody was always getting sick and everything like that. There was no medicines. In the winter, which covers a lot of the year here, it was so gloomy all around. No leaves. And the way the Brahmacharis living, there was really nothing that your senses could enjoy. Still, realistically, sometimes we think about when we have things, we fight over things. But what I witnessed there, when you have nothing, still you'll fight over something. Because in this Kali Yuga, this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, it's so much our tendency to fight. You know, that tendency to fight over a little piece of the floor that you want to sleep on. Or some crumbs of Mahaprasad. Or some title or position where nobody could care less what your title or position is. That tendency was there. And we had such a variegated background of people. How to live together. We had Marine military commanders in the Vietnam War who were here. We had people who had very hard criminal backgrounds. We had flower children hippies. We had civil rights activists. We had environmentalists. We had just people who were just lost in the world trying to find something. And here we all were living in such a condensed little atmosphere together. And the tendency of disagreements and fighting was so much there. But the only thing that had any real attraction were the deities of Radha Vrindavan. There was really nothing else to enjoy, especially in those winter months. Yes, we had the tendency to fight over anything and everything, but because we all truly focused our propensity to be attracted on the deities of the altar, there was no real opulence to dress the deities, but whatever we had, devotees would live just to see that darshan. And we see Radha Vrindavan, they're quite small in size. In large temples, there's big, beautiful deities, or deities that are thousands of years old or hundreds of years old. So just many deities, hardly a foot in height. How they manifested the beauty of the spiritual world. There was just nowhere else in the universe that the Brahmacharis who stayed here wanted to be. When they would go out across mountains and across ridges and across creeks, going miles to work hard labor in the winter, they would just long to come back for that evening arti to see Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan. I would be up here all alone during the day, and there was just nowhere else in the universe I would rather be. There was no heat in this building. Not during the day, for sure. Once my father came to New Vrindavan. He took a flight from Chicago to Pittsburgh. He rented a car and came to Vrindavan. He had no idea what I was doing. He met some people at the parking lot, some devotees, and he said, "I want to see my son Radhanath." He thought I'd be right there. They said, "Oh, he lives up on that mountain. And he's never allowed to come down from there for the rest of his life." That was quite shocking. And he said, "Well, can I go to see him?" He said he was going to drive his rented car. They said, "Cars cannot get up there. It's all mud. It's miles." So they got a Dvaitacharya Prabhu to connect two horses to a hay wagon, because he was bringing up hay anyway. My father sat on the hay in the back of the wagon. When he came up, it was winter. It was freezing. He was all alone here. I was all alone. He was looking around. He said, "What do you do here?" And I was just filled with pride. I said, "Let me show you what I do here." And I brought him in that farmhouse. And I brought him before Radha Vrindavan, and I said, "I serve them." He's in this cold temple room. He started to cry. He said, he said, "You, myself and my mother, we've given our whole life for you, and you end up playing with dolls?" I said, "They're not dolls, they're deities." He cried a little more. And I tried to get philosophical about how Krishna is God and not different than the deities. And I wanted to give him lunch, and it was like the ice cold Mahaprasad from the morning. And there was no chairs, and there was no spoons or forks except the deities, but we couldn't use those. So he didn't know what was going on. And then he said, "I need to go to the bathroom." And I gave him an army surplus shovel. And I told him, "You can't do it near the temple because it's offensive." You have to climb down the hill and dig a hole in the ground and make sure you're buried. And he said, "I'm going to hold it until I get back to the Pittsburgh airport." And to make a long story short, it was time for him to leave and catch his flight, and Advaitacharya was kind of late because the hay wagon broke down in the mud on the way up, so he had to go back down and get a horse manure wagon. And I put him on the floor of the horse manure wagon. There was a little hay, for him to sit on. And I said, "My dear father, I'm so sorry I couldn't have given you more when you came here." And he cried again. And he looked around at all the leafless trees. This was right here, the manure wagon was with horses. He looked around and said, "Son, what could you have possibly given me? There is nothing here." Through his eyes, it was actually a very accurate description. But Radha Vrindavan were here. And by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, he sent Radha Vrindavan here, gave them this name. Srila Prabhupada gave them the name Srimati Radharani and the Lord of Vrindavan. And through Srila Prabhupada's books and his lectures and the senior devotees we were hearing from, we were blessed with faith that Krishna is none different than his holy names. Sri Radha is personally present fully within her holy names. That Krishna is none different than the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that Krishna is none different than the deity. And by Srila Prabhupada's teachings, we have faith that whatever, in the winter here, we'd get sent up some flowers sometimes, but we would use our imagination and make garlands practically out of anything. And whatever little food we had, here we would happily cook for them. And Chandramali Maharaj could explain cooking down there. This is a farmhouse. I'd be making sandesh, kneading it on the table, and when during the evening arti, when devotees came back and danced on the floor, there was a monsoon rain shower of cockroaches that would fall down from the rafters. Remember? Limitless cockroaches. And in the mornings, when we go to the kitchen, there were gigantic field rats. And we would have to work so hard to cover everything from the rats invading. So it was a simple life. But yet, when we came up here, all the Brahmacharis who were working all day, polishing and cutting marble and putting blocks of bricks and digging and excavating, they didn't come up here to rest. They came up here with complete enthusiasm to render personal services to Radha Vrindavan. And by faith in hearing, we really believed and we really experienced that we're doing the same things the gopis and gopas do in Vrindavan. We're rendering personal service to Radha and Krishna. And because there was that enthusiasm to serve and an appreciation and gratitude for the opportunity to serve, even despite the situations. And in many ways, especially the situations made it that there was really no distractions. The only distractions from just enthusiastically, lovingly serving Radha Vrindavan were miseries. And miseries are a much easier distraction than the seduction of pleasures. They were our only shelter. And when Srila Prabhupada gave that instruction, build a community by keeping Krishna in the center, we got a glimpse into what he was saying. Varsana Swami Maharaj was talking about camaraderie. There was, with all of our differences in every way, there was such a deep and sweet camaraderie because our focus was on making Sri Radha Vrindavan happy. And all the temples in the world, to the extent we put Krishna in the center, to the extent we put Srila Prabhupada's pleasure of keeping Krishna in the center, there's real community. When we think that when the differences go away, when the different natures and different opinions go away, then there will be unity. That never happens in this Kali Yuga of this world. But when we make the priority of our life to put Krishna in the center. And we share that goal. There's real community. It's the community of the spiritual world. When Srila Prabhupada was at, I remember in 1976 when he was coming, he was going to come up here again for the first time since 1969. Because otherwise all of his events were at Bahulaban. Because Radha Vrindavan Chandra moved down in 1972, I believe. Or 71 perhaps. So the Brahmacharis up here were so enthusiastic. And then we got the news, it is such a jungle up there. We will not bring Srila Prabhupada up. So that was kind of heartbreaking. But being the Pujari, it was like the dream of my life. I was giving everything I could for the deities, and I was doing it all for Prabhupada's pleasure. And if only he would come up and Radha Vrindavanath would see Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada would see Radha Vrindavanath, that would be a dream of my heart. And now he's not coming up. At that time, in the whole world, as far as I know, there was only one photograph of Radha Vrindavanath. Because there were no cell phones. The good old days. But one devotee, he was the first original devotee, as far as I know, to join our movement in England. Malati Devi Prabhu can explain. His name is Kula Shekhar. He came here to live for some time, and he had a camera, black and white film camera, and he took and developed one black and white photo of the deities on the altar. He gave to me. And I was thinking, if Srila Prabhupada's not coming here to see Radha Vrindavanath, I will bring them to him in the form of this only photo. And I went down the mountain, across the Keshigat River, and then climbed up the mountain and went to where is now Sankirtan and Ruchi Devi's house. Prabhupada was in his room. And I'm going to end with this story. There was a guard blocking the hallway from anybody going into Srila Prabhupada's room. Only a few very senior devotees were with him. And he said, nobody goes in to see Srila Prabhupada. And this little Brahmachari, I said, yes, I understand, but could you give this photo to him? I'm the Pujari of these deities. He's not coming to see the deities, so the deities want to come and see him. He was very stern because he was in the mood of the guard. In India we say chokidara. He looked at this photograph and his heart melted. He said, you go and present it to Srila Prabhupada. So I went in and I bowed down. And all these sannyasis and senior devotees are sitting. They're looking like I'm not supposed to be there. And I just wanted to get out real fast because I didn't feel I belonged, and I just handed the photograph to Srila Prabhupada. And he told me to sit down. And I sat down and he looked at the photograph for a long time. And he said to Kirtanananda Maharaj, "Is this Radha Vrindavan Chandra?" I said, "No, this is Radha Vrindavan Nath. They are living at that old farmhouse that you were in 1969. This is the Pujari." And Srila Prabhupada, this was my experience. When he was looking at the photo, and the photo was looking at him, there was such a loving relationship beyond material description. Srila Prabhupada said, "We will go there." And he was told, no, we cannot go there because it's a jungle and the road is too difficult. We cannot go. And Srila Prabhupada said, I think he said, "You have pickup or jeep?" Huh? I think he said, "You have jeep? Pickup?" I said, "Prabhupada, it's too difficult." And Prabhupada said, "We will go." I got chastised. I really did get chastised. Everything, his schedule changed. And he came up here to give Srimad Bhagavatam class in Guru Puja, greeting the deities. And that was the first time in 7 years he returned here, and the last time in our history. He came for a couple hours. A lot of memories about our community here are really serious, good lessons of what we shouldn't do. And a lot of the lessons of our community is what Srila Prabhupada gave us, that we should always aspire to do. And the beauty, whether we're in luxury or poverty, when Krishna, in the form of the deity and his holy names, in the form of service to his devotees, is really the priority center of our lives. That's actually the only place in existence where there can be real happiness. Because that is new Vrindavan. Thank you very much.